Hello everybody, welcome back to the Blind Press YouTube channel, and today we're going to look at what a real leader looks like. Last night covered Trudeau's speech at a Liberal fundraiser after yesterday's insanity, and today we're going to cover Pierre Poilievre's speech in the House of Commons in regards to the same thing, and we're going to see just how different they are. But before we get into that, I invite you to please like the video, share the video with your friends, and if you're new, please consider subscribing and clicking the notification bell so you can know when I post and when I go live. So this speech is an 11-minute video, and yes, we are going to do the whole thing because it's important. And I want to show you guys, as I said, the difference between Justin Trudeau's gaslighting, flamboyant, arrogant performance and the calm, non-exaggeratory, non-hyperbolic delivery of Pierre Poilievre. I'd like to show you guys that right now. So as I said, this is from the House of Commons yesterday.
I rise today flabbergasted by the news that has just been made public. The government has finally revealed its true deficit number. Remember, this finance minister, this outgoing and now former finance minister, told the world that she was putting in place guardrails to limit the damage that her deficits could do. Her deficit plan was $40 billion, a mind-bogglingly large number that was already contributing to rekindling inflation again. This $40 billion was too big. It was out of control as it was.
So that is how we're going to start and continue with this calm, thought out delivery. And yes, he does stumble a little bit, but it kind of makes it more human. It kind of feels less robotic that way.
But at least to her credit, she said no more than that. And she decided she would have a guardrail. We know a guardrail is meant to stop vehicles from flying off cliffs. Well, as she was trying throughout the year to avoid going off the cliff, there were two people on the bus who had other ideas. The Prime Minister and carbon tax Carney. And the two of them went to the front of the bus, they grabbed the wheel, they pulled it sharply to the left, smashing into that guardrail, and she tried to resist. So they pulled even further to the left.
And I enjoy that he's actually standing up for Chrystia Freeland, because she did get thrown under the bus. Like, as much as I do not like Chrystia Freeland, she absolutely got thrown under the bus, and it was good for her to not stand up and read the fall economic statement. It was good for her to say, no, I'm done, I resign.
And they stepped on the gas. The bus flew off the cliff, and now Canadians are at the bottom of the ravine in a big pile of debt. But instead of taking responsibility, the Prime Minister told her that she should take all the blame. That when the ambulances and the police cruisers arrived and the fire department, that she take the blame for running the bus off the cliff, and that carbon tax Carney and the Prime Minister could innocently sit back, and that the Prime Minister could then put carbon tax Carney in charge of driving the next bus. And
this is exactly what Trudeau did. And he does this every time to a strong woman. And as much as I dislike Chrystia Freeland, she is a pretty strong personality and makes herself known. That doesn't mean she's likable, but she is definitely not a weak person.
The good old boys in the back room would protect themselves and make the finance minister, the then finance minister, take all the blame. Reminds you of the way they treated the former Attorney General, a brilliant and brave First Nations woman who refused to kowtow to corruption. It reminds us of the way they treated Jane Philpott and so many other brave women who have dared question this self-described feminist prime minister. Some feminist indeed, throwing the bus off the cliff and throwing women under the bus.
Good for him for pointing that out. Good for him for pointing out the fake feminism, the fake, the I am a feminist. I still remember that speech. It was so cringy. And he does everything that all male feminists do, which is treat women like utter dirt when they try to stand up for what they believe in, and then just trample over them anyway and do what they want.
That is his real record. That his real record on finance, Mr. Speaker, is yet another $62 billion deficit. For context, outside of this government, there is no government in the history of Canada that has ever run a $62 billion deficit. Wow. Not even in the 90s when the Wall Street Journal said that we were a third world basket case. Not even during the massive global economic crisis did the deficit come anywhere close to that.
This is a historical deficit. And he would know because he is a very savvy economic guy. He knows his economics. He knows his finances. And I feel like he's probably going to be, tell me what you think in the comments. I think he's going to be the conservative version of Paul Martin. That's what I think. And finance minister turned prime minister.
We are. With the global economy growing, with the American economy booming in stable times, this deficit is 100% at the feet of this irresponsible prime minister and his personal economic advisor, Carbon Tax Carney.
That's right.
Now, Carney says he doesn't even want the job of finance minister. No. He doesn't even want to try and drive the crashed out bus.
No, Carney doesn't want it. Carney didn't want it, Champagne didn't want it, Boissonneau didn't want it, so Dominic LeBlanc took it. Because of course he did.
After he helped run it off the cliff. And they couldn't find anyone all day. In fact, no one will appear today even to defend this incredible disaster of a budget. Look at the consequences in human terms, Mr. Speaker. We have 1,400 homeless camps in Ontario, 35 homeless encampments in Halifax alone. We have 2 million people lined up at food banks. Scurvy is making a comeback. The government admits that 1 in 4 children are going to school hungry.
And this is all true, but the shitty part is that people outside of Canada don't understand that we are in the middle of fixing all of this, that we are in the middle of changing all of this. And it's very frustrating to hear people outside of Canada come in and laugh and, oh, things are going to shit in Canada, ha 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 ha. Canada should just Canada should just be part of the United States, annex Canada, all this stuff. And it's so freaking frustrating to hear because we can fix this.
Every single day. Unemployment is rising and according to this budget expected to exceed 7% by the end of next calendar year. The gap between per capita GDP in Canada and the US is now 30,000 in Canadian dollars, 30,000 it was equal 10 years ago. This is the worst gap since at least the Second World War.
That is mind-boggling. $30,000 difference in earning potential. At least it's something like something like $1.40 Canadian for $1 US, something crazy like that. And it's just nuts. So it's so out of hand. But it's changeable. It's fixable. And that's why Poilievre is here talking like this, showing us what a real leader looks like, showing us what a real leader sounds like.
And some say the worst gap in a century. Canadian workers are only getting 55 cents of investment for every dollar an American worker gets. $500 billion Canadian investment dollars, which works out to almost a quarter of our economy, has left net to go to the United States, where it builds pipelines, factories, warehouses, pipelines, business centers, Canadian investment dollars paying American wages, while our workers go starving for investment and for salaries to pay their bills. When I travel across this country, I consistently meet two types of people. One, those who are a little better off and tell me that, and I'll be very blunt about this, that if I don't win, they will leave the country. And
wow. That's crazy to actually be told to your face, if you don't win the next election, I'm leaving. And to those people who say they're leaving the country, I say that's cowardice. I say you need to stay and fix what's broken. And the more people leave, the more broken it will become.
And they are very numerous.
Yes.
But you know, I don't worry about them as much. You know who I worry about? The ones who can't leave. Mm-hmm. The ones who don't know, and if I can just use very blunt language, who tell me I don't know what the hell I'm going to do. I have no idea how I'm going to pay my way.
That's right.
I met a waitress at a restaurant not long ago, and she came up to me and she grabbed me by the hand and she said, "You have to win." And I said, "Oh, thank you, I appreciate your support." She said, No, it wasn't a compliment. You have to win. And then she told me her story. She told me that she was working one full-time job and two part-time jobs just to pay her bills as a single woman in her late 50s.
One full-time job, two part-time jobs just to pay the bills for one person. That is, and it gets worse. And the way he tells this story is absolutely amazing, the way he does it, the way he delivers it.
And she was tired of working all the time. So she cut everything out of her budget. Every creature comfort, everything she enjoyed about her life, she cut it out so that she could drop one of those part-time jobs. And then one morning, she woke up and she walked outside and her car was gone. And she called her insurance and they said they weren't going to cover the replacement value. So she had to take that job back because she simply cannot live her life without a car. Now you can bet your bottom dollar the guy who stole the car, he was probably out on bail. This was not his first job.
That's right.
Her taxes have gone up. Her heating bill has gone up. Her wages have not gone up. She's scared to go out in the streets in places where they didn't even lock the door not long ago.
It's true. The city that we used to live in is more and more like Toronto every single day. And it's absolutely out of hand, the amount of violent crime that I read about in the in the news coming out of that city, where it used to be, it used to be just small time stuff.
These are the people we're fighting for. These silly games over here, they're very entertaining. The soap opera that everyone's seized with today, that's all fine. But there are real people whose lives are on the line here, and we have a duty to work for them. And quite frankly, this woman doesn't see me as any, or any of us as any kind of savior.
No.
They see us all as a last hope.
That's the thing. There are so many times where I've gotten comments on videos saying, It doesn't matter who wins, they're all the same, stuff like that. And it's that people are very jaded when it comes to politics now. People are incredibly jaded and incredibly cynical when it comes to who is going to help them in Parliament now.
In fact, she doesn't want to be saved. She just wants her life back.
Exactly.
She was taking care of herself just fine before her tax, her heat, her grocery bill went through the roof and her car went missing. She was doing just fine. She was doing everything right. Met another guy at the La Brat Brewery a few days ago, and you can watch the video of me talking with him. He walked up to me and he said, I have 3 jobs and I can't make it. We're renting. We have no hope. We've given up on ever owning a home. We're renting. We can barely make it. And he said to me, I feel ashamed when I talk to my kids because they ask me why I'm never around and why we can never have a house. And I feel like a failure.
That hits really close to home. That hits very, very close to home, hearing that, because it's true, and it's a conversation that a lot of parents, including us, have had with our kids, and we are lucky enough to own a house, but we still, aren't able to do what we want to do with regards to, living properly, because of money and because of cost of living and because of just all. It's so close to home to hear this, and to hear him talking like this. There's no flamboyant delivery, there's no arrogance in his tone. He's just talking.
But he didn't fail.
No.
He has been failed.
Yes.
He has been robbed of the promise of Canada. It was a very simple promise, that if you worked hard, you got a good life. Now, it wasn't fancy or extravagant, but you got a house with a yard where you could have kids playing safely, and you could have a nice dog that you could afford to feed along with the kids.
Yeah.
And your kids could play safely in the streets. That was the promise. Now, politicians break promises all the time. But you know what was bad about this promise? This promise didn't belong to this Prime Minister.
No.
It wasn't his promise to break.
Yep.
It belonged to all of us.
That's true, because for decades, for centuries, almost centuries, Canada has been that place where you could come and start a new life, and if you worked hard, you got what you wanted.
And our purpose is to bring home that promise for that young man, that young father, and that older female worker, so that they can once again take back control of their lives, live in a safe country where their hard work earns them a good wage, where their rent and their food is affordable, and where when they go to bed at night, they know that they will be safe throughout their sleep and that they will have their car in their driveway in the morning. A country where people are proud again to fly the flag, where they know the government is a servant and not a master, where they understand that every day the Commons, this place, works for the common people, not for the ego of one man desperate to cling on to his job. We must remember that we are servants in this place. We have a job to do on behalf of the people who sent us here. Our personal dramas are not important. The dramas that should seize all of our concern and imagination are the daily dramas of the working women and men that build this country. We are in it for them. We're going to give them back control of their lives in the freest country on earth, Canada. Let's bring it home.
Come on, get up, Lamb.
That was one of the best. That was one of the best speeches I think I've heard from Poilievre, and I'm glad I watched the whole video. I wanted you guys to see it. I wanted to show you guys the difference between Justin Trudeau and Pierre Poilievre, and the way that they speak and the way that they articulate, and just the fact that Poilievre is a lot more humble in his delivery and a lot more down to earth and a lot more willing to accept that as a parliamentarian, they are servants of the people. They are not the boss of the people, and the people are there to tell them what to do and how to get it done. And he is by far right now the best person for the job. He has to win, as that worker said, as that waitress said. He has to win because there's nobody else right now that can pull Canada back together. And when it comes to dealing with Donald Trump as well, he's going to be the only person who's going to be able to handle Trump and Trump's boisterous nature and Trump's blustery brand of business making. Sorry for the alliteration, but I had no other option. Anyway, let me know your comments down below. What do you think about the difference between Justin Trudeau's speech last night and Pierre Poilievre's speech in the House of Commons? I think it's worlds apart. And for anybody that considers Pierre Poilievre to be a mini Trump, I don't see how that speech does anything but prove that wrong. Trump would have spent the entire time calling Trudeau names, would have spent the entire time personally attacking him. Poilievre does not do that. Poilievre doesn't need to do that. He does the policy attack. He attacks policy and attacks ideas, which is the correct way to do it. So let me know what you think in the comments down below. What did you think of this speech? If you are Canadian, would you do you think that he can fix this? If you're not Canadian, what do you think of watching this from the outside perspective? Let me know. I'm interested. Thank you for watching. Like, share, subscribe, and I will see you in the next video.